This is my personal story of how I found myself in debts and how I recovered from them. I hope you learned something, and if you are going through the same problems, you will recover and have a chance to be debt free. So, my personal debt story started while I was employed by this employer. I was employed and I was told that I'll be getting a very huge amount of money at the end of the month. So I was very, very happy because it was almost like 50,000. I had never been employed with such amounts. So the eagerness and the readiness to explore more with money started then. So I moved to a bigger house. I started browsing or searching for new clothes online, targeting them, new appliances that I had always wished I would purchase, so that when the money comes in, I'll purchase. I was counting my chicken before they hatch. So we continued working for the company, or rather, I continued working until the end of the month, and the employer said that he would not afford to pay. What does that make me? I have already moved to a bigger house. I have already targeted some things that are very expensive, but I cannot afford. I have already started living a life that is beyond me with no money. So I was in debt. I had started finding loan apps on mobile phones and acquiring the loan. Furthermore, at the end of the month, I'll have the money and I'll pay. At the end of the month, we were not paid fully. So, what does that make me? I am in debt with a lot of people, and I have sourced my loan even from the mobile loan apps. So from there, I learned that that employer does not pay in time, or rather, he does not pay the full amount of money he promises people. So one thing that is evident in this story is that we always have enough, but when we are promised some more, there are always some needs that will come along with the money that has been promised. So, first, don't count your chicken before they hatch. That is the number one lesson I learned from the debt story. Don't count your chicken before they hatch. Unless you have your money in hand, and that money we are talking about is money that is meant for doing that project, not money meant for paying house rent, or money meant for saving, or money meant for paying other bills. If you have an extra amount of money that is supposed to do that particular thing or purchase that particular thing, that is when you purchase that thing. So I had acquired a lot of debts because the habit continued for like 3 months. I'm living in a very expensive house beyond my means. I am living a life that is not standard because, anyway, the employer will eventually pay as I thought. And when he will pay, I'll pay all the debts. But the debts kept on accruing and accruing. And one day I realized I'm the talk of the town, as in people would call me and ask me, "Are you in debt?" I ask, "Why?" "Because so and so mobile phone app, loan app, has called me and they say you had written me as a guarantor and they say you have a loan of this amount and they want you to pay." And I became a talk of the town, and life was so miserable that I even started loaning, as in wanting to go to the Shylock way. So before everything was messed up, like I had to sit down and analyze my debt situation, and I found that I had more than 250,000 debts, and my bank account was zero, and I had to start paying. So how do I start from there? I'm negative 250,000. I have zero amount in the bank, and I have an employer who does not pay the full amount. So, number one, the first thing I did to analyze my debt situation is to know the current situation that I was. I took a paper, a pen, and I wrote down all the institutions I owed debts, their interest rates, their balances, and the repayment modes or mode they were comfortable with. One factor to consider when choosing how to start repaying your debt is to know the interest rates that the the loans are attached to. Some are very high interest rate, and you might want to consider those ones first because the higher the interest rate, the higher the charge. So the money will keep on multiplying at a higher rate than those that are offering a lower interest rate. Another thing I did was I had to look for time or an appointment with my employer and talk to him and ask him how much he could afford to be paying me at the end of the month. It might not be the full amount, but tell me a specific amount of money that I can work with or I can budget with so that I can plan, I can budget for my personal expenses, and at the same time, I can budget for the debts or the loans that I'm paying to avoid future inconveniences. So I went and talked to him and told him the situation at hand, and he had to agree because he is the one that had led me to take all the debts. After all, he is the one who owed me more than than the debt itself, because if he could have been paying me, I could not have found myself in such a situation. So formulate a plan or a budget, know what you expect, your income and your expenses, then plan well. If you have to cut some cost in your expenses like house rent. That is not like cutting. You have to move from the expensive house and move to a more affordable house, so that you can get an extra coin on, and that coin you can use it to save or pay the debts. Another factor or another thing you can do, all I did was to consider all my creditors and know how to negotiate with them. Some were good enough to understand that it was not like my whole doing, or it was not my liking for me to be in debt with them. I had to explain that I had this plan and then things went haywire. So if there are some people you can negotiate with, some can hold on and you can pay them at a later date. And if they had an interest rate attached to the loan, some might consider to do away with the interest. It is good to negotiate with them. Some may give you an affordable or a good plan, a good repayment plan that works for you. That is good too. So all these made me learn that not to count my chicken before they hatch, and also maybe sometimes you always have what is enough for us and what is working for us, but the rat race and pressure of life makes us do things that are not really necessary. So I had to cut on my expenses, that is on rent. I had to move to a cheaper house, cut my expenses on clothing. It is not a must I buy the most fashionable clothing item at that time. If the budget says no, the budget has said no, and you should obey the budget. Then cut on maybe takeouts and food. Sometimes you just purchase, and it is not that what we are always purchasing is healthy and very good. I had to learn on how to make my income more and my expenses less, so that I can save an extra coin and use that coin to pay my debts. Yes. So increase on the income and reduce on the expenses, so that you may be able to repay your debts as fast as you can.